Hello friends. Welcome to I'm gonna call it a cozy corner chat. Although when I envisioned this, I imagined I was actually in my office, in my big chair, cozy corner. But instead, all of the animals are out here. That screams cozy to me. And we are going to be working on this puzzle. I'll show you it up close. It's from a company that I have never tried before, and it's supposed to be like interlocking pieces so that once you have it all together, you don't have to glue it like I do all of my other puzzles. I have one I just completed this winter that I glued that I'm excited to put up for next winter. Anyways, this cute little fairy treehouse, I cannot wait. I saw someone had completed it on Reddit and was like, I must have it. I simply have to have it. And while we are hanging with our animals and doing the puzzle, I want to chat about a plethora of topics. I don't think I've done a chatty video in a while, so I have a list. The first one is I'm debating the merits of using my real name, Kate Kavanaugh, as a pen name. If this is the first time you're learning that, surprise. I'm debating it, and I have thoughts that circle into this kind of idea of the newness of debuts in tradpub versus building a backlist in indie self-publishing. And then I want to circle around into enjoying content, but realizing you don't have to make that content. Basically, when you like something, you think you're gonna like making it, and then turns out you don't, surprise. And then I want to chat a little bit about the shame at not having everything figured out immediately and how that differs for me in certain things. Yeah, okay. Let us get to puzzling, let us get to chatting. Miss Ma'am. Buffy is ready. I love you too, thank you. I love you. Also, we're going to be using this box. Please don't look at Buffy. Once upon a time, I had an actual puzzling board and it disappeared. This is quite large. So how did I lose it? You might be wondering. I have no idea. No idea. Okay. Use as the final step to frame your puzzle. What? So before I discuss why I'm thinking about using my real name, I think I need to discuss the reasons that I used my pen name. I'm going to do it very briefly, but at the time I'd really just quit a corporate job and I was debating the merits of returning to that corporate job, and I didn't want people to be able to search up my YouTube channel or my books. I wanted it to be separate from, if I started applying elsewhere. I don't think you need to do that. I think it's really cool if I find out that someone has written a book, but I just didn't want that to be the first thing that people found. I didn't want people to have a step up in thinking they knew me, the more real me versus whatever professional me there might have been. So Kate is my real middle name, and then Kavanaugh was a name my grandma helped me to come up with. Thus it came to be. Now, I've since come up with another pen name, a romance pen name, and a version of it for basically how spicy the content is. So I am juggling 3 pen names, if you will. But under Kate Kavanaugh, I've not written anything. Under this pen name, I have some fun personal essays you can find. I have a piece in an anthology, a little author to be kind of thing to raise money for charity, but that's it. And now Kate Kavanaugh has, I would call it, some amount of leverage. Some being the key thing. We've seen booktubers who got book deals because they have an audience. That was a while ago where it was like a big hubbub. Now the booktubers are writing books. We've seen the bindery books that has come out, and publishing is a business. I think that's evident to all of us here on AuthorTube, right? And so as I'm nearing the publication of A Closet Full of Cauldrons, which, knock on wood, will be this year on a dog toy. Which should be this year. Ooh, and hopefully the next one in this series is this year too. Anyways, as I'm looking at that, I'm trying to decide, do I publish under Kate Kavanaugh and use the audience here, or do I wait because of the value of a debut book within traditional publishing? Do I want to use the little bit of leverage that this Kate Kavanaugh name, because the audience has this little bit of leverage, do I want to use that to try, and when I'm querying Under the Influence, when I'm querying a thriller project for tradpub, do I want to be able to say that Kate Kavanaugh is, this would be my debut book with Kate? Do you see what I'm saying? Now I'm not in traditional publishing yet, so I'm speaking from a place of just what I've read about the value of your debut year and how much, how excited people are about debuts. There's different lists for it. There's a fervor about it. And there's an additional pressure. I will say also that when people don't know what to expect, you then get to set the expectations. And also A Closet Full of Cauldrons, which is a mystery and thriller, you know, it goes under the mystery umbrella. It's very different in tone. A Closet Full of Cauldrons is a cozy mystery set in this fantastical world, whereas this thriller that I wrote is like, it's very different. It's like making fun of these influencers and also killing them off in like kind of brutal ways. And hopefully also making you feel for them, maybe a greater discussion of society as a whole. Anyways, they're just very different tonally. And so at a certain point, it's like, do I want to come up with a whole new name if I'm feeling like I really want to save Kate Kavanaugh for tradpub, or the hopes of tradpub, right? Because all of it is a hope. If I want to save it for tradpub, then what name do I use? Because A Closet Full of Cauldrons would be published certainly before I would get anywhere close with Under the Influence, right? Just because of how long the tradpub process takes, and also just how much farther along I am in A Closet Full of Cauldrons. So if I'm thinking about doing another pen name, the question is, do I just use my own name? Because I'm not in the same place I was when I created Kate Kavanaugh to start with. I don't plan on going back into the financy field that I was in before. I also, I don't know, is it age? It's just a confidence that if someone finds this and knows me in real life, it's like, well, that's who I am. So I don't know. The situation is just very different almost 8 years later, you know? So what do? Do I just use my real name? Especially because I've accidentally spoiled my real name a million times on this channel. Which, it sounds quite nice. I am still debating, I should say, using my partner's last name for it because he has a very fantasy sounding last name, which is fun. But also, if I'm thinking about using my real name, I think I'm just gonna use my real name. I've really come around in the years. It's just so funny that this is something that I'm legitimately considering now. And the more and more I say it, even sometimes I'll get on here and I'll be doing a chatty video, and then it's like the more I talk through things, it really steers me away from what I thought going into it. But the more I'm saying this out loud, the more certain I feel that I'm just gonna publish A Closet Full of Cauldrons and all of those sort of cozy mysteries under my real name. Yeah. Yeah. You know what's really fun? So this puzzle, they have them done in sections, and I was worried that as I was looking at the border element that it wouldn't be all sectioned out. But it is. So I kind of I'm thinking the rest of these pieces might connect to where this particular border is. So I'm basically going to do a quarter of the puzzle now. Perhaps. That's quite fun. Also, let me show you the difference in this puzzle, because it's not wood, it's this like plasticky, which I guess is why it is able to snap together really easily and you won't have to glue it together I certainly don't want to do that. Anyways, it definitely feels different than normal puzzles or puzzles I've used before. But I'm not opposed to it. The pieces slip in really well if they fit. There's no like, with wood, depending on how good the puzzle is cut, sometimes you're like, oh, it could be either of these pieces, and you kind of force it in, only to find out that it was not. So this is actually quite nice. It either fits or it doesn't. Now the other part of this is that having said that Under the Influence and A Closet Full of Cauldrons are different tonally, that's true, but they are both mysteries. So then the question is, in theory, would the people who like my cozy mysteries also like a thriller? I don't know. This debut year newness is always also really interesting to me, just because though having a debut is really exciting in the indie world too, what you really want oftentimes is like a backlist. You really want to have more and more books, because oftentimes when people are reading, it's, you know, if you find a new favorite author, what do you want most but to read all of their other work? And I know that this is true for tradpub too, but there's just, vibe-wise, it feels so different to me. I think somewhat because tradpub is, the publishing company is measuring what they think they're going to get from your stories and how many they'll sell. And if you're not meeting certain expectations, then, you know, it can be harder and harder to buy that next book from you. Whereas in the indie world, there's a whole movement. Why do I feel like this movement, did it have some drama in it? Is it 20 books to 50K? Is that it? Why am I feeling there's something, you know, when there's something in the back of your head about, like, am I getting the title wrong, or do I remember something bad? Oh God. Anyways, the concept being, you need 20 books to make $50,000 a year. And so if you can get up to this amount, then all of your backlists will keep making you money, in the same way that making YouTube videos, you know, I still have videos that make me like $1 here, $1 there, and they all add up to make up however much money I make that month. It's not just the last video I published, it's all of the other ones I published. It's not just the last book you published, it's all of the other books. And again, same is true in tradpub, but just in a different way, All that to say, the more pen names I create, right, the less backlist each of them can have as I'm spreading out these books across them. So at a certain point, it's like, my logic has been, for certain genres, I use certain pen names. I think tonally, this is the idea with Kate Kavanaugh versus my real name and these cozy mysteries. But that's just a strategy, certainly not the one I would suggest for everyone. I love the people that do it all under one name. It'll be interesting as we're seeing more and more young adult authors move into the adult space. We've seen some of them who use versions of their name, like Victoria Schwab, V.E. Schwab, but I don't know if that's as important as it used to be. So there's just a lot of things to consider, and I don't know that any one of them is the exact right path. Each one of them comes with their own pros and cons, and so it just leaves, it can be hard when it's more of just an opinion and going through a route, and not that there's any one right or wrong choice. You can help me. All right, part of it is starting to come together. One of the other things I've been mulling over recently is I had set myself up and planned to do a whole month of weekly vlogs. I even said I was going to do it during my 52 and 25, 52 goals in 2025 video, because I wanted to see what it would be like if I combined my crocheting and my cooking and all these other goals, all these other hobbies that I have into my writing vlogs, because I'm trying to decide if I want to make a second channel. I kind of talked about it there, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna try one last thing. And I forgot that I hate making weekly vlogs. It's so funny because back in ye old NaNoWriMo days, back when they were good, and not just the worst, not awful, I really enjoyed doing the daily vlogs, as much of a like push and concentrated effort as it was to write and then film, edit, post. But during the camps and then later Novembers when I couldn't do the daily vlogs anymore, I would do weekly vlogs, and I just never loved doing that. I don't like doing that for some reason. I think it's because I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the organizing of the footage or what, but so it's just so funny that despite saying that I was going to do that and attempting it, I was like, oh no, actually, I don't like this. And I should have pieced that together before then. I think it was made more difficult because I love watching weekly vlogs. I love just slice of life style videos that take place over longer than just a day. I love to see like slow but steady progress in things, or just what people are cooking and what they're doing with their house, like just like little stuff I enjoy having on. And so I was like, oh, well, I surely will like making that if I love watching that, but that's simply not the case. I do not like I don't like making that at all. And it's so funny. I love making topical videos. I love having a specific idea, and if that specific idea takes a week, that's not a big deal. But having to just, here's a week in my life, I don't know what it is. On the rare occasion, I might enjoy filming it, but for the most part, I really don't. So anyways, lesson learned. I've definitely learned that lesson before about how just because I enjoy consuming something doesn't mean that I would like to make it myself, but it's just always a little bit surprising for some reason. During that week, I was on a stream and Rainey was saying I'm allowed to not have everything figured out immediately. I think it was a Patreon stream, but I thought that was so interesting because as I've set all these goals, cooking has been a goal that I've had for such a long time. And just like a far off dream is to host a multi-course meal at my home and bring in people from my community that I love, and we could all have the meal together, which was so great. I went to a Galentine's Day thing and I was talking to my new friend, Monica, and she was saying the same thing about community. Like, we were both just having these revelations about community. I think a lot of us are having these revelations right now. Just the desire for community. I have an incredible community online. I have an incredible group of friends, but they live quite far away. And I think I just want some people here in my city of San Antonio, and I want to help my community locally. Yeah, and so anyways, all that to say, we're talking about cooking and talking about food and how food brings people together, along with this book that I read. And I think it reminded me that for some reason, I am okay when I'm crocheting to make all of these attempts at these dice bags before I found the one that I really wanted. I was doing like a little watermelon version, and I decided to use different patterns, so I switched. I decided to make them bigger. I decided to try a different little holster around so that you could tie it. I am willing to try and fail on crochet and frog my project, and I'm willing to do all this and not feel like it's a reflection of me for any reason. I'm allowed to not have everything figured out immediately, but for some reason, specifically with cooking, I think because there's a shame attached to it, I'm like, why can't I already cook? I am 30 something years old, I'm 32 years old, and I feel like I should be a better cook by now. And so I think with that in the back of my head, it makes me not want to take the risks that you need to take to get better at something with cooking. And so I'm trying to really take that in, understand that not everything's going to be delicious the first time. And I think also it's the idea of wasting money on food and like buying specific cuts of meat or like specific like harder to find vegetables or fruits and then wasting it because I mess it up. Like there is a monetary component to that fear that, but it's like inescapable. And while I understand I've written long enough to have a, you know, I'm not scared of the blank page because I know I'm going to fix it and rewrite it. I'm not scared of the rewrite because I know I'm going to edit and whatever. There is still this sense with deadlines, or maybe it's because I speak to the camera in the current moment of something thinking I have it all figured out, and it goes back to that little shame monster in the back of my head where it's like I will sometimes completely pivot away from something within the story because I found something so much better, but it's hard to be like, yeah, I thought I was almost done, but actually this needs 6 months more work. This needs, you know, 40,000 words to be completely rewritten or whatever. And that's part of the process. And realistically, for the story itself and for me, that never actually feels bad. But it's when I start speaking to the camera about it sometimes that there is something in me that's like, why didn't you have this figured out before? Why didn't you? Why didn't you know it would take this long? Why didn't you know to factor in that you might have to completely rewrite elements? Why didn't you know that this other murder was going to happen and it was going to take, you know, it's okay to not have everything figured out. It's inherent to creating this trial and error. And I think now that I've like vocalized it, put better a name to it, reminded myself of this because of Rainy Hammer who said that, like, I think I'm just continuing on this path of being kinder to myself. And when you get rid of the shame monster, like I have none of it with crochet, but when you get rid of that shame monster, it is so freeing and you can so much better enjoy the process. And if you're enjoying the process more, you'll do it more, and just all this stuff, you know? So I think that's all I had to say. I'm not quite done with puzzling yet for the day. I'm going to keep doing some of this, but thank you guys so much for watching, listening to my ramblings. Please do comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on pen names. Let me know your thoughts on having a backlist versus the new shininess of debut. Let me know if you too have noticed a difference in that versus like tradpub versus self-pub. I don't want to pit them together. I hope I laid out the pros and cons and all this stuff, but I'm just curious if you too have seen this sort of trend. Yeah. Do you have anything that you love consuming the content of, but you don't want to make yourself? I would be very curious about that. Whether that's the practicalities of making it, or if it's just like you've actually tried to make it and you simply don't like it. Like maybe you love watching writing streams, but you don't enjoy streaming yourself. Or maybe you really love watching commentary videos and you like researching, but you don't enjoy actually sharing that commentary. Let me know. And also let me know if you've had any victories lately against the little shame monster. Yes. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you very soon with a new video. Bye, friends.